clearly stressful circumstances in our country. Thank you. Do we have pledge leaders?
We do, but they're virtual.
Virtual, okay.
Are we ready?
Yes,
Yeah.
in fact, if I could real quick, if you could pause that. Super quick, I'd like to introduce them if it started to play.
Hang on.
I'd like to introduce Kira Oliver, excuse me, Vincent Snyder, Angelina Rivera Wilson, Anaya Jackson, Elijah Higgins, Zadia Salyer, and Verity Flanders.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Ambler,
Yes, sir.
if you'll let them know that they did a fantastic job, it was
I certainly will. And
that screwed it up.
as far as you all know here in this room, we did that in one take.
Okay. Let's do a quick roll call. Dr. O'Neill? Present. Mr. Heater? Present. Ms. Spales? Present. Ms. Barnes-Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Irvin?
Present.
Mr. Lowe?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Ambler, the floor is yours. Okay, thank you. Will we be able to tell? Will they let you know when they can see?
I think we're good. Are we good, Tony? Great. Perfect, thank you.
Fantastic. Now I know how my daughters feel when they're on the dance stage and the music doesn't start. So good evening, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Kay, central office staff. It is our pleasure, and I say our pleasure, to be here this evening because not only will I be presenting on behalf of our entire school, Westview Elementary, but also our master teacher, Tammy Bell, who will be speaking here in just a few moments. One of our two mentor teachers, Aisha Allen, who will also be presenting, and our other mentor teacher, Kelsey Pavelka. So we will kind of get the show on the road here. I wanted to give a nice little overview of Westview Elementary. So as I just said, that is me leading some things off here. So this year for 2020-21, our student population consists of approximately 315 students in person and then 70 virtual students for a total of around 385 students, which we are very, very appreciative to have. As far as our classrooms are concerned, we have 3 sections of kindergarten. One is a dual language kindergarten. We have 3 first grade sections, which is one is a dual language section. 3 second grade, also one of those is a dual language second grade. And then 3 third grade sections with 1 third grade section. And we're going to be adding a 4th grade section of our dual language program next year. We also have 2 regular education 4th grade and 2 5th grade as well, servicing our students. As far as our staffing, this is one of the things that I like to try and keep in perspective through the years. 2017, 2018 was my first year at Westview. We had 8 teachers and 1 principal, being myself, that year. So that was part of the closure of our three of our elementary buildings, and we were able to get some of the teachers from those buildings that had to close their doors. 2018, 2019, we had 7 new teachers. Last year, we had 5 new teachers, and this year, we only had 3. And it's to be noted, and I'll have to refer to I can't see that from here, but we had a 3rd grade teacher added. She was a brand new teacher. we had preschool added, and a PE retirement. And so I think that speaks to the testament of the lengths that the board, our central office staff have gone to make sure that we have stability and continuity. One of my big goals in talking with, whether it be new hires for Westview or talking to our teachers who have been with us consistently, is that one of my goals is that kids in the neighborhood ask, well, hey, where do you go to school? Well, Westview. Oh, you want Senora Pavelka for dual language, or you want to work with Mrs. Allen or Mrs. Bell or Miss Bost as your teacher. That's what I want. I want that consistency, and I think that we're really beginning to realize that consistency. As far as our community partnerships, we do have Ball State. We still have student teachers. We have done virtual reading practicums. We also have worked with an ambassador for MTSS supports, which is multi-tiered system of supports in identifying students that might qualify for special educations or have special needs. We also have a PDS liaison. That's a professional development school liaison, and Amy Lightsey. She's also involved in MTSS meetings, our ILT. There's tons of acronyms, so I'll explain all those. Welcome to education, right? Our instructional leadership team, professional development, and also networking. In addition to that, we are very fortunate to have an establishment of a dual language teacher pipeline. We have been able to have a student teacher in dual language in Senora Pavelka's second grade class, who is actually now a first grade dual language teacher. So we're coming to realize that as well. It's very, very exciting. Continue on with our community partnerships. Westview Community Association, also known as WVCA. They have helped us with food pantry support. Volunteers, definitely not in person this year, not quite yet anyways. We're hoping that might change in the near future. They help also with fundraising and teacher grants, teacher appreciation, and school grounds beautification and support. Continuing on, we also have a partnership with Westminster Presbyterian Church. They've also helped support our food pantry, which is tomorrow night from 5 to 6:30. We have that monthly. They also help with volunteerism for food pantry, and that's all been done outdoors the entire year. And last year when we had to close our doors, they've also helped with teacher appreciation. I mentioned our food pantry. That's all provided by Second Harvest Food Bank. And as of last year, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of having that established at Westview for our needy families. This is another exciting partnership that's in development as we speak. Northside Anthony Neighborhood Association has acquired a grant, and that's going to help support some school and community gardens. And so that is coming soon. That is not stock footage. That's actually the pictures that you see up there. This has long been a goal of mine in coming to Westview to get something like that established so that our students can see what it's like to dig in the dirt. And that's part of Project Lead the Way, which is I'm very excited that we have as well. But also to make them more community minded and act locally. And then also, just had a meeting with a young man from Central High School and a young lady from Burris through the Schaefer Leadership Academy. They're trying to establish a mentor program, and so we're going to get that in the works for some of our 5th graders. So without further ado here, I'm going to ask Tammy Bell, she is our master teacher, to come up and continue on with the presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Today, I'd like to do a 20-second PLC with the Muncie Community School Board. All right, our professional learning community meetings are weekly, but we're going to focus our meeting today on the instruction domain for motivating students. So here's a multiple choice question for you. Let me see if I can figure this out. Did I do that? Yep. All right, so which indicator is the best practice for motivating students? A, play a musical instrument for the first time. B, consistently develop learning experiences where inquiry curiosity and exploration are valued. C, run in a marathon. Or D, have lunch with Mr. Ambler. Mr. Ambler is so hoping that you are going to choose have lunch with Mr. Ambler. However, I know that all of you, let me push this, that all of you chose B, and that is to consistently develop learning experiences where inquiry and curiosity and exploration are valued. Our professional development on our PLCs is always tied to our best practices in our evaluation rubric. We use those best practices to derive our collaboration and to improve our instructional methods. What an awesome best practice this is for all of us together to implement. And I'd like to also tell you a few more things about being the Westview Master Teacher. First of all, I want to say what a privilege and an honor it is to serve with and be a part of the Westview educational team. Our teachers are amazing. They are hardworking and they're open to innovative strategies and best practices to improve our student growth. We have a strong leadership team that brings a lot of powerful talents to share with our teachers. This contributes to their growth and in turn affects the growth of our students. I'm behind a slide. Mr. Ambler, you could have turned these slides for me here. Help me out. I do want to point out two things that I feel like have been such a positive of this position. Because, I know we talk a lot about whether this is working and whether it's not working. And so these are two things that I think so to this point that have really stood out to me. And one is being in the trenches. It's easy to sit back from afar and say, well, this teacher should be doing this, or why isn't this teacher doing that? I've done it. But it's essential, I think, to know how it feels, looks, tastes, smells, and sounds firsthand. And that's when you truly start to understand the dynamics of what is going on for that classroom, what is going on for that teacher, what is going on for those students. And then you can work, make adjustments, and you can strategize, and you can improve, and you can flourish. And so I think this is a key factor, is us actually being out there and being with the classrooms. The second part of this is PLCs. I've done trainings in the past in other schools. I've trained teachers, but one of the complaints I had from teachers is, hey, I need more help with feedback. I need more help with follow through. But at that time, my position was a lot of responsibilities and there just wasn't time. And so this is what I love about this, is that I can actually get out there and meet with the teachers, talk with them, go in and model. They may ask me to model, or I may say, hey, can I come in and teach this, so they can kind of see where I think we need to go. And so I love that I can go in and model. I can encourage teachers, support them, find materials for them, look, research. These things that I'm able to do really help our teachers with knowledge and with their confidence. Because sometimes they just need to say, hey, can you just watch me do this and then tell me, and, okay, am I on the right path? Am I doing this? And they just need that pat so they feel confident. And then the last part of that is that I don't know what it is with teachers, but they do not want to brag on themselves. They don't want people to think that they know it all. And so they have a hard time sometimes sharing the great things that they're doing. And so when I go in there and I say, oh, this is so cool. Can I make a copy of this? And they'll say yes. Or I'll say, hey, could you type up the procedure of how you did this so we can share this with everybody? Then they'll say yes. And that's how I start to gather things. And I've been gathering things. And then I share it with my other master teacher friends, and we're sharing it even across buildings. And so this is great. I just took a picture of a teacher's game board from iReady that she uses with her students for learning pathways and how they're scoring on it. And I just sent that out yesterday to our teachers. So I love this, and I love it when teachers come to me and they're so excited about something we presented, and they say, hey, I'm doing this, it's great. Kelsey did a great PLC on aggressive monitoring and exit tickets. And I had a teacher come to me about 4 days later and say, oh, come look. And I went and observed her, I videoed her. And so it's just a great program. I am still growing. I'm still learning in this position. And, but I have to say, I've been around a long time. This is my 37th year, I believe. And I didn't think I could be challenged anymore, but oh, yes, I can. I have a lot to learn and a lot of challenges. But I do thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I hope that I can continue to make a difference at Westview Elementary School. Thank you. And
Thank
Aisha's next. Aisha.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aisha Allen, and I am a mentor teacher at Westview Elementary. I really enjoy my new position here at Westview, and thank you, Mr. Ambler, for trusting in me to take on this new leadership role at our school. And thank you to the board and Dr. K for bringing this to our district because I really see some great benefits through this program that we've adopted. Okay. I am going to touch on just a couple positives for my leadership role at Westview. There's a couple things. The first thing is cross-grade level collaboration. I love that I am able to be a part of that, bringing ideas across grade levels within our school and projects, and our teachers have so many great insights and provide so much information, and this allows for a time for them to be able to share with one another, and then for us as master teacher and mentor teachers to be a liaison between the grade levels and share those ideas. And also the flexibility to help teachers structure and plan their lessons. I love going into the classrooms and seeing how each teacher has set up their guided reading and providing modeling and providing ideas for them to implement new strategies in their classroom, and them being excited to do so, and then seeing them take off with that little bit that we've given them and watch it flourish. And also, I love being able to contribute to our PLCs that we have weekly. I love Tammy is always bouncing ideas off of me, and I'm giving her ideas, and I love being part of that. And then also being able to have the opportunity to lead a PLC for special training that I had. I was one of the people chosen in our district to have the extensive training in Orton Gillingham. And so being able to lead a PLC on that and provide training for our teachers on that has been great this year. So I love being a mentor teacher. It has been such a benefit to our building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kelsey.
Hello. Thank you all so much. I'm so excited to be in front of you guys tonight. In addition to everything that our ILT has said, I just want to add one more amazing thing that we're doing at Westview through our ILT. We have an innovative vision for what training teachers looks like long term, and we have created let me switch the slide. So we have created a way to highlight the best practices that we're seeing in our building. Through securing, writing, and receiving grants for videoing equipment, and Tammy alluded to this earlier, we are able to actually identify the teachers that are already exemplar in their practices, go in their classrooms and video those practices, and then bring those videos to our professional learning communities each week. So that when our teachers are being trained, when they're being mentored by us, they're not just watching YouTube videos of great teachers from other states, which is helpful. They're actually seeing videos of the teacher down the hallway doing these practices that we're talking about day in and day out. And so it makes that aspect of relatability just at such a higher level. This doesn't feel like something that those teachers that have been doing this for 10 years are doing. This feels like something that they could do, something that I could do next week. And our goal for this is that our database would grow each year with our teachers. So we started this year. Tammy's been compiling the videos each week that we're doing this in our PLCs. And yeah, so that we would be able to whenever a teacher has maybe a behavior issue or a issue that they're not sure how to deal with, we can say, I've got a great video for you to watch. Miss Boss did this last year. Look at the strategy that she used and at the exemplar level. So yeah, so this is something just kind of above and beyond that our ILT has done this year that we have received great feedback from, and it has been really great for us because it's one thing when we're able to see this in the classroom, but when we're able to see it, capture it, and then share it with others in our building, that just elevates the experience for everyone. So, Mr. Ambler's gonna come up now.
Can I throw?
Wait. Could we have all three faculty members come up for a second and then open it up to questions from the board for you all? I think Mrs. Bales had a question.
Yes, I do. It's funny that you brought up those videos because actually when Tammy was talking, I wrote something down, and this may just be a shot in the dark, and I don't know who would be in charge of this. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could, as a district, create a digital platform where that kind of stuff is shared? Like you were talking about asking if you can make a copy and share it with other teachers, even if it just started as like your mentor teachers are uploading things, and I don't know if Google would have the capacity to hold that amount of information, but kind of like teachers pay teachers, but just our teachers, and you're sharing it for free. I think it would be great if we could do that district-wide and break it up by grade level, subject area, just throwing it out there. I don't know who wants to take that load.
Master teachers are trying to set up, we've set it up. We haven't added to it as much as I would have liked, but we have set up where we're trying to put in ideas for resources that we find as we find them or as we practice with them. But the video thing, our teachers were, the first one we did was on aggressive monitoring. And our teacher said, it's just so cool to see somebody, because I don't ever get to see her. She's in that part of the building and I'm over here. Mm-hmm. And she said, it was a lower grade teacher. And so it was just really great to hear the feedback, as Kelsey said, because they were excited to see someone that they knew doing that procedure. So.
Definitely.
Yeah, super quick, and I'm going to leave them alone to get some more questions. I think Schoology would be a perfect platform for that. 100%.
I think it would just be so cool because you like those ideas that you guys had. Imagine like, okay, now our kiddos at Northview, their teachers can grab that information too. I think it'd be awesome if we could share it among schools.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Schoology would be a great,
a
great platform because we already have the grade level resource folders, so we could just upload those videos into the grade level resource folder. So
I think that would be awesome.
Other questions for faculty? How are you guys doing? Aisha, we'll start with you. How are you doing?
Surviving.
Okay.
I'm doing well. This year has brought its unique challenges in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I really think that we're doing the best that we can, and our students are doing the best that they can, and we're just trying to meet them where they are and try to show some growth, get some growth out of them, and we're just taking it day by day.
Tammy, you?
I survived COVID.
Okay.
So I'm good. My husband and I both, and doing great. Can I throw in something here?
Absolutely. Floor is yours.
This was hitting me here just recently after talking with Amy Lightsey from Ball State. I really would like to start and I just briefly talked to Mr. Ambler about this, like a professional library, but we need it's always cash to help us with that. And I have books that I have a lot of books after 37 years that I share with my teachers, but it would be great if we had a place to store these and then a place for them, for us to purchase things. I'm thinking like the Harry Wong procedural book and the whole brain book that I share. I have several teachers who borrow those as procedural behavior management type things, but I just purchased another book that is on charts that Christina Smeckens uses because I thought it looked very beneficial when I bought it again. And then I really like the ones that Amy Lightsey just showed me. So it would be great if we could think about maybe some type of funding for the Master Teachers, Mentor Teacher program to purchase some professional things for our teachers, those professional library where they can go and get those things and borrow them and bring them back. It's just a thought I'm just having as I'm looking.
No, I
We
think
need to have innovative new things that are out here. Tammy Bell has 37-year-old, which is not bad. I'm not saying
No.
that stuff is bad, but we also need to start looking at some things that are not in my old library that are fresh. That's a great word. And so, you know,
Can you get these in digital form? Can you create a box account? We can share all these digitally in a box account where teachers can access it anytime of the day.
oh, that's a great idea. You can purchase a lot of books digitally. That's a great idea. And then we could share them across the board,
Right.
not just in our.
Not just in your building,
Yeah, and I wonder
Copyright laws.
copyright and so forth. but
how
check it
difficult
out.
it would be to digitize some of those hardbacks internally. I mean, without having to go out and purchase. Obviously, there are copyright issues there I need to think through, but digitizing hardbacks that would be then made available.
And I would bet today a lot of those volumes are available somewhere
Yeah,
out there,
I bet so, too.
digitized.
yeah, and just accumulate them in a box. I think that's probably a very good idea.
Right, so that's where I'm looking right now is the need, as a need.
Okay.
That I feel like this would benefit us to have this available. And with, give our, we can also, you know, present when it feels to be part of our training. We'll come across a very good resource.
So we have our career ladders grant that, you know, I believe that would be easy to amend to be able to get some type of supplies that you need, which digital books could certainly be considered a supply. So I think it's a very reasonable request that we'll be able to figure out.
Okay. So, Ms. Bell, sort of, and I'm not giving you an assignment here, but since you came up with the idea, if you had, you know, a series of titles that you thought would be essential for elementary teachers to have regular, ready access to, if you could get those to Leanne, I think that would be a great place to start with and reaching out to your fellow master teachers and mentor teachers in terms of what they think. If we had, 50, 60, 70 titles that we think are essential, let's get those out there and figure out a way to get them.
I want it.
Okay.
I want it. I love it. I love it. I love that you're that supportive. Thank you.
Kelsey, how you doing?
I'm doing better than expected. Back before the school year began, I wrote, I believe, everyone in this room an email, expressing my concern about returning back in person.
Right.
And the amount of flexibility and resilience in our students, I wasn't prepared for that. And their ability to cope with what they're going through and just like conquer it. I mean, they're doing so well. It makes showing up each day and living in this and teaching and trying to breathe in this while I'm teaching so much more manageable when I see them taking this on in stride. And so, but way better than I anticipated.
You need anything?
Always.
You're asking the wrong person.
No, Kelsey, your emails are always thoughtful,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
always thoughtful, and they're never a problem. I enjoy reading them. So, I just want to say on behalf of the board, let me ask, are there additional questions? I'm sorry.
No, but just one comment. What's encouraging is the fact that you got stability in your teachers and you're now crossing over from grades. That just continues to, the momentum is just amazing that can come out of this. So it's good to see the stability with the crossing over. So.
I did have one other item. On the masters and mentors at the various elementary schools, and I know this year has been incredibly unique and challenging, but do you have time, are we making time for you all to be able to communicate across with your fellow masters and mentors at other schools to compare notes on some of these things?
The master teachers, we meet in a WebEx meeting every Friday at 1 o'clock as best as we can. Some are called away to things that are of priority in their school. And but we do our best to try, I set that up for us every Friday at 1 o'clock. We try to meet and share ideas, or we'll set up a way to send each other resources, and just to get ideas about what they're doing or how they're tackling something. And if I'm struggling with something, they're just so supportive. And we're a close group.
Okay.
And we work very well together. And we wish we could be together and not in a WebEx, where we could actually pull our stuff out. But I know I've shared some of my slides with them, and I've sent them, I just recently sent them a packet of fluency strategies, and they do the same with me. They send materials. So it's awesome.
One of the things that I would like to do, maybe twice a year in fall and spring, particularly as we're able to get back together, is to look at a master mentor retreat a day for you guys just to be together. We feed you, and
You guys are.
you have, you set the agenda, and, sometimes just putting people in a room with the ability to set the agenda broadly is really healthy in terms of an opportunity to bounce ideas and to share. So if we could look at doing something like that.
That's awesome.
And then, any additional questions, concerns?
So I do want to acknowledge that Dylin is working on getting dates in the summer to bring the master and mentor teachers together also. And so that will be another good opportunity.
Okay, well, let's make sure we feed them. And
Oh, yes.
yeah, and not like Arby's or something. I love Arby's, don't get me wrong. So I do, on behalf of the board, want to thank you for your dedication. We're incredibly proud of the faculty. We're very proud of the work that you're doing, and under immensely challenging circumstances. I understand that this has not been easy. The board understands it. So again, thank you for what you do, how you do it. And Kelsey, you mentioned the students. Each of you is exhibiting the same characteristics on a regular basis. And I know that it's stressful, and I know that it's anxious. So thank you. Mr. Ambler.
Thank you. And again, thank you to our awesome teachers for setting that example. And one of the things that Kelsey had mentioned was resilience of students. There's also resilience of teachers. And if you'd like to watch this at your leisure, I certainly want to watch it here. But if you'd like to watch it again so you can kind of put some more names with faces. But there are tons of little things that are associated with that resiliency, not only for I'm going to take this off because we're all distance. But there are tons of little things that speak to and contribute to the resiliency of our students because our teachers have exhibited that. Even when they don't think that I'm watching and taking notes, I'm not watching, just for the record, I'm not watching and taking notes of anything that's negative ever, just always room for improvement, but all the positive little things that might go unnoticed or seemingly unnoticed, I've been doing some reconnaissance throughout this entire semester to share that. And if I were to read live, I'm not a super emotional kind of guy necessarily, but if I were to read live what you're going to see on this video, I would probably get a little bit choked up. So without further explanation, if you would, please, Becky, I appreciate it.
This is for all the little things our teachers do to make a big difference. I appreciate you and all the big things that you've done for students and each other. I also appreciate the things that you do that you might think go unnoticed. I appreciate the small pieces of tape that you cut to help kiddos with their spacing that line the floors and walls here and there. I appreciate the care that you take to sanitize your hands, start a banana peel for a student eating lunch in your classroom, and then sanitizing your hands again before doing it to the next student in need of help. I appreciate the waves that you direct your former students that you've had from the previous year made from across the hall. I appreciate your heightened expressions that you project to your students from behind your mask to ensure that they know that they are safe and are loved. Thank you, have a great evening, and I look forward to making each day the best that it can be and taking control of the things that we have the power to control, whether they be big or small.
And that was, those were every single one of our teachers and just some of the little things, and they all make a huge difference. They add up, and I am blessed to be at Westview with all of them. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Ambler? Any questions at all? So the same thing I said to the teachers, how are you doing? Or ask.
I can tell you in private exactly. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm doing fine. There are tons of challenges, but I'll tell you what, just like you saw, hopefully you're able to read some of those, if not most of them. I couldn't necessarily at this angle, but if it weren't for them, if it weren't for our teachers everywhere in our district, I can only speak to, the little things that go on at Westview, but I am certain without a doubt or hesitation that's happening district-wide. I'm just able to be a little bit more specific than that with my folks. Like I said, I am truly blessed to be at Westview and blessed to be surrounded with the teachers that we have, the professionals that we have, and they make my job so much more easy. It's not an easy job, as I'm sure you're all very well aware of, but the kids keep me coming to school day in and day out, and the teachers do as well. So
we are likewise blessed to have you.
Thank you.
As our students and faculty. So if there are things you need that you'd rather express privately to the board, please let us know.
Absolutely.
And then I want to highlight just a couple things. One is on the decreasing turnover with faculty. That's a tribute to your leadership as well. So we appreciate that immensely. And I don't know if Seth is watching tonight or other reporters, but that's something that we are very, very gratified and pleased about in terms of the decreasing turnover since 16, 17, and it's gotten better each year. And so in your case with Westview, that's remarkable, and we are extremely proud of the work that's happening there. So anything additional for Mr. Ambler? Yeah.
Say that. Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we did a school tour, it was great to be in your space. The culture in there was like amazing, you just feel the passion of the teachers and the desire of the students to learn. We always get impressed with the art and all those things that are involved, but we just thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to Monkey Community School. And last year you presented and you did a rap with the students.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll have to go back in the archives for that. I'm not quite feeling that this evening. So.
And if you would share the board sentiment with your faculty and your staff as well, and let all of them know, again, just what I told the teachers in terms of their resilience and under very, very difficult circumstances. We're very, very proud and appreciative. Anything additional? Do you have anything final?
No, that is it. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Dr. Kwiatkowski.
Well, Mr. Ambler always knows I enjoy getting to Westview, and he does a remarkable job as well as all of his staff. So thank you very much. Just a few updates for you. This week, our high school students are extremely excited. They are being issued new Chromebooks and turning in their old ACEs. And so we've already issued 650 new ones, and by the end of the year, or by the end of this week, we will have those all swapped out. So that good work between Tony Harvey and Chris Walker, who developed a good plan to make sure that that was handled smoothly. I also wanted to let our community know that there will be another round of PEBT cards. That's that Pandemic Electronic Benefit Transfer. So that is issued through the state, through FSSA. We will do an upload every time they ask for different criteria, which can be confusing then to our parents because sometimes they get cards and then the next round they might not. The criteria for this round, any student between the month of October and December that was in the virtual learning program will be part of the upload, as well as any student that was quarantined for 5 consecutive days. And so our principals are working with our IT to make sure we've identified all the right folks and that it will be uploaded this Friday. I'm not certain the timeline for when those cards will be mailed. There's always quite a lag from when we upload before cards get sent to the parents. But we will be putting information out through our, with our schools and through our social media. There will be another round from January until March, and then potentially another one through the summertime. Our administrative team, we've been conducting process checks in schools. So what that means, we believe it's very important to hear the voice from all of our teachers. And so we set up meetings. This year, some of our meetings are virtual, where we do WebExes with grade level teachers. Others, they'll still want us to go to their schools and be in the library in a socially distanced way to meet with teachers. But we meet grade level by late grade level, asking about strategies and initiatives that we're doing that are aligned with our strategic plan, to hear how they're working, as well as giving them an opportunity on how we can better support teachers, students, or the school. And we're making a big running list of all of those. Some we can easily do right as soon as the meeting's over, and others will take longer to be able to accomplish. But we just view those to be very valuable. I think we've done 3 schools, and so we still have 6 more to do. Well, 6 more to do yet, yes. I also wanted to talk about our high ability program, which many know as our extended learning program, ELP. They have formed a committee where they want to figure out on ways to improve the attractiveness of the program and how to maximize enrollment. And they'll be bringing their ideas in front of the board in the near future, because so many people really don't even understand what ELP is, and we're very unique. Many school districts may offer for their high ability students a pull out for an hour a week or something, and we offer class grade level all day long extended learning opportunities. And we believe this could be a great attraction for other people from even other districts to want to come to Muncie. So we're really going to try to highlight that program and let not only people that live in Muncie Community Schools, but even surrounding districts know what we have to offer. Yesterday, we had an issue at Grissom Elementary. Their heat was not working at capacity. They were able to run it at a low level because of the way from the gas line outside, there was a part that needed replaced. SSC did a great job, found the part in Indianapolis. We had to send kids home half day because it was cold, and even at running it at a low threshold, we felt it was still not warm enough in the school. And so we fed all students lunch. We called all families, got them on buses or sent them home walking, and only had 8 students that weren't able to get picked up during the day or sent home with someone being home, and they went to Southside until the end of the day. And so I just really want to commend the entire team. Grissom Elementary did a great job with that, as well as people here. We had lots of folks who took class lists that were calling families, and Chuck ran all over the place for us to Grissom and to Southside to make sure everybody was taken care of. So great team effort. And then lastly, well, 2 more things. We have our MLK Youth Citizenship Award. Usually we have a great event that is done on Saturday, and we are not able to gather this year. And so we have a video production that is every school will use, where we'll still be awarding our students. And that is happening this week. Most of them will be on Friday, but we're still making sure that we're able to acknowledge our students and So Dylin and Rhonda and then Andy have done a very nice job helping to coordinate that. And then lastly, I also wanted to, we're hearing from our master and mentor teachers. And, last summer when I said to Dylin, Tap, how would you like to lead all the work with NIT? She had no idea just the level of involvement that would be, but she's done a remarkable job with making sure that we have a lot of training, that she is assisting masters and mentors and principals, and that she is working with our consultant from NIET. I would hate to add up the amount of hours that they have collaborated. So, that doesn't happen without some folks behind the scenes helping with it too. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. K? Dylin, thank you.
I wanted to say on behalf of the MLK Dream Team, I'm the chair of the MLK Dream Team, so thank you to you and all of you for doing what you do for our students to make sure that virtual program can still happen. And I saw the video today of you and Mayor Ridenhour and Rhonda, and it's awesome, so thank you. Thank you for just Muncie Community Schools' partnership with our community. It's great.
And so that's all lined up to occur this
This
Friday?
week. Yes.
Okay. Any additional questions? Do we have any public comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. We are on to the consent agenda, items A through F. I want to highlight briefly the donations. We had quite a few donations that totaled $6,100, including a significant donation from the Jar Community Church, donation from Nick Richards at Maxwell Barber Shop, and a significant donation for food drive from Mitchell Early Childhood Center, in addition to a number of other donations. So thank you to all of our donors. That's one of the wonderful things. Our total donations this month are $6,129, so that's remarkable. Anything additional in the consent agenda? Any questions, concerns, or otherwise any inquiry? If not, would entertain a motion.
So move approval of the consent agenda.
Been a motion? Did I hear a second? I heard a second from Mr. Heater. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. We are on to Ms. Smithson.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for letting me come today to talk to you about Muncie Community Schools formative assessments. Now, you might ask, what is a formative assessment? What does that mean? Well, we have a couple of different kinds of assessments in education. One of them is formative and one of them is summative. Our formative assessments are the little pieces and the little snapshots we take along the way to ensure students are progressing. And our summative ones are the ones we do at the end. So that would be like I learned, or a big unit test at the end of a unit. So those formative assessments are incredibly important to our teachers because it's what tells us if what we are doing is working, okay? So why, go ahead, Becky. It's okay. Oh, I have the clicker, I'm sorry. Let me do that. So last year, we were using NWEA as our main formative assessment. And we started having conversations because we were getting a lot of input from the community and from teachers about how we also have something called ESGI for our primary kids. We also have something called CFAs. We also, all these acronyms again, right? We have this program called Steady Island that some of our teachers were using for formative. We have STAR, reading and math assessments. We have Extra Math and IXL and all these different programs that different teachers were using, but nothing super consistent except for NWEA. But what we found was we weren't really getting the information we needed from NWEA to tell us from this information, will our students be projected to pass the state assessments? Now, that didn't end up being an issue last year because we didn't have state assessments, but that was something that was very concerning to us, is how do we really make a great prediction about who's gonna pass and who's not, and how do we target instruction and remediation? So we started to look at iReady. So we had too many assessments. We started to look at a program called iReady. And iReady was on the state's approved list for formative assessments for Indiana, and we would be allowed to use our formative assessment grant that we get from the state of Indiana, so that was a check mark for good. It's aligned to Indiana academic standards, and this was the kicker. It's strongly correlated to Indiana state assessments through specific linking studies. So what they did was back in 1819, the first time they took iLearn, they took 22,000 students in the state of Indiana, and they looked at their scores and their growth as compared to what they did on iReady. So these 22,000 students were using iReady, and then they had another group that wasn't. So that's their control group, right? To see those using iReady, were they making progress, like looking at their iLearn scores, were they making progress? If they had this much growth in iReady, were they making progress on iLearn? You know, all that kind of stuff. And what they found, the National Center for Intensive Interventions, it's a lot of stats, I know, and I don't really understand it all myself, but they say anything with a correlation of 0.70 or higher is strongly correlated. And all of iReady's for grades 3 through 8 were strongly correlated in both reading and math. In fact, 0.77 was the lowest, and that was for like 8th grade English. So above 0.7 is amazing, and some of the math ones were even 0.89 or 0.9. So you know if your students are doing well on iReady and they're getting to grade level standards, it's very highly likely they're going to pass the iLearn. If they're not doing so well, and you can see where they're at, they actually have prediction charts that will say, if they did this in iReady, they're gonna get this on iLearn, and it's very closely correlated. So we'll be able to predict that and target what students need remediation. Pretty good reasons, right? Okay, so, but why else? Why else would we choose iReady? Well, the first part is it's an online diagnostic assessment. So we're able to use the technology. We've got virtual students and we've got in-person students. We're able to do a diagnostic assessment even with those that are virtual that will pinpoint the math and reading skills down to a sub-skill level. So we're not just saying, did they have this standard, this Indiana academic standard? They're saying, what prerequisites even make up that standard? And do the kids have all of those before we can say they've mastered that standard? So it takes it down to the sub-skill level. Number 2 up here is it creates, as soon as that student finishes taking the test, like literally instantaneously, it creates an individualized, personalized learning path for that student to address any sub-skill they haven't mastered. And it orders them by priority. So it will say, this student needs this standard, but he's missing these 4 sub-skills. This sub-skill is most important before he can get to this one. And it will give them questions and tutorials and all kinds of things on this individualized learning path to address those sub-skills. And that doesn't matter if they are already on grade level, it still does that for them. What do they need next? If they're above grade level, it still does that for them and gives them what could they work on next to challenge them. And if they're below grade level, it will give them what are those, what we call gap skills in education. What have they missed that they really need to work on next in order to make progress in this program? So that's unique. NWEA does not offer that. So that was another reason we chose to switch. Go ahead. Oh, I've got it. Okay, I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting. Sorry, I'm just excited about this. It's really cool. So, and last but not least, we have what I consider, and I've been in education 23 years, the best embedded professional development from a company, from a vendor that I have ever seen. I can call someone from iReady at a moment's notice and say, hey, I can't get this to work, or hey, why is it doing it this way, or how do I get this teacher in, or we got a new student, how do I make sure that this syncs right with this, or whatever. I can call them and have someone that helps me immediately. We have someone who I can also call or email and set up any kind of training that we need at any time. They've already met with our teachers and our principals, I think, 3 times? Like 3 times on those like early release days, on the professional day that we had on January 4th, they met with, and they don't just meet with all the teachers together. They'll do a WebEx where there's a trainer that works with just our kindergarten teachers for specifically what they need to work on for growth. Someone that specifically works with our first grade teachers. They break it way down. They keep telling me, we want intimate groups to work with your teachers. The smaller we can get the groups, the better, so that they can really make progress. So they're really, really good with the PD. They've taught our teachers to use diagnostic and growth data to plan small group instruction, using the data from the iReady. They've taught them to use the diagnostic and growth data to plan targeted interventions and student goals. And they've taught them that they've used the student diagnostic growth data. How do we motivate students to want to achieve more and take ownership of that? Because the learning path that's created from them is self-paced. So the student can do it from home if they want to. The student can do it when they have finished their assignment and they don't have anything else to work on. It can be like an anchor activity for them. That's what we call it in teaching, is if you get done early, you can do this, right? So they can get on iReady at that point. And also, they have been taught to use the online learning paths to maximize growth and target those gap skills in our students. So that, I think, is really important. That professional learning that's ongoing is super important. It's not just that they gave us one workshop and now we never see them again. Okay, and they keep asking me for, what else do you need? What else do you need? They will individually email each of our principals and sit down and go over their school data with them. I mean, it is phenomenal. So, like I said, I've been really impressed. So there's 4 more things you need to know about iReady. Number 1, it's an adaptive assessment. I'm going to talk about that more. It customizes to student needs. It's not a grading tool. And iReady does not replace the classroom teacher. That is very important to us. All right, so let's dig more into those 4 things. So first, it's an adaptive assessment. NWA was also an adaptive assessment, but this is really neat the way it does this. So this little diagram kind of shows you that the student will start with an on grade level question. If they get that question correct, it's going to give them a more challenging question. If they get that question wrong, it will take that down a notch. And it keeps going up and down based on whether they get those answers right or wrong, to really drill down into what skills and sub-skills they've mastered and which ones they haven't. And that's how they come up with the great data that we can give to our teachers. Any questions about adaptive assessments? iLearn is also an adaptive assessment as well. Next, this is a little snapshot of what our students will see on their dashboard, customized to student needs. So on the right-hand side in the green box, it shows that customized learning path. If the student clicks on that on their device, they're going to be taken to those individualized lessons that were automatically created after they took their diagnostic. However, that teacher may say, you know what, I really want him to practice on these 2 extra things this week. So the teacher can assign. So the blue boxes on the side are something the teacher has assigned to them. And they know if they see a blue box, they need to do that first. So they can click on those blue boxes, do the things the teacher has assigned for them to do this week, and then they can pop back into their learning paths. Again, it is not a grading tool. So it does support our students, it challenges our students, and it provides just right content for them, but nowhere in there is it assign a grade to them. It will give us as educators really good information as far as like statistics on that student and their score, but it's never going to show a student that they're failing or that they're not doing something. It really helps with the motivation to keep going when they're never given a grade on what they do. They're given feedback, yes, no, and then the program automatically changes what the student needs to do next based on how they did on the thing before. It's really high level. And then last but not least, iReady does not replace our teachers. What it does is it gives the teachers the tools they need to help support the growth in the students. It automatically will group students for the teacher based on their skill sets that they need to work on and say, these 4 students in your class need this lesson. These 4 students on your class need this lesson. These 7 students are doing okay on this, so here's an enrichment activity. It automatically generates this for our teachers so they can look at and there's options. They don't have to only pick the one that's there. There's options. And teachers can really look through pre-created lessons and content that are already aligned to standards, which is fantastic. So that teacher is very important because they're the one that has to determine, based on what iReady gives them, what tools to use and what they should use and what they shouldn't, and what students can handle and what they can't. But what I've seen the most is increased engagement. I think the schools that are really have jumped on board with iReady and really used the learning paths are really seeing increased engagement from the kids. In fact, the kids really like this aspect of it. After they complete so many things in iReady, it gives them a game that they can do. It's just a short game for like 2 minutes, a little tiny thing, but then they go right back to their learning activity. But it gives them these fun little things to kind of motivate them to keep going. And sometimes that's what our students need, those little breaks. So now I'm going to turn to the handouts that I gave you all. And if anyone in the audience wants one, there's some here on the corner. The handouts that I gave you all are some of the reports that we're able to get as a teacher in iReady and then share with our parents. So the first one you're looking at, and I don't know if Becky put math or reading on the top. Which one's on top?
Yeah. Math.
Math, okay, great, so I'm the same. So this is a fake student, by the way. This is not one of our students. I didn't want to share anything confidential. I asked iReady to send me a fake kid and what this would look like so you could see what we see. And what you can see on this page is that this student is in grade 4. He has an overall, over here on the right-hand side, overall diagnostic level at grade 3. So he's yellow. He's 1 grade level below where he should be. Yellow always means 1 below. You can see below that that's broken into 4 math domains. Numbers and operations, he's actually at the mid-4th grade level, so he's green. That's where he should be right now. Algebra and algebraic thinking, he's actually red on that. That means 2 or more grade levels below. So we can see for that standard, he is below at grade 2. And then he is yellow for measurement and data and geometry, still at that 3rd grade level. And so overall, they will give you a score on this little chart here in the middle. And you'll see like that 451. That doesn't really mean a lot to anybody because it's just iReady's score. But what means a lot to us as educators is right here below that, where it says national norm. That student is at the 22nd percentile of every child in the United States that's taken iReady. He has scored better than 22% of them. So he's not average. Average is 50 in a percentile. Dead average is 50. That's where kids should be. 75th percentile or higher is really, really good. Okay? So that 22nd percentile means he's got some work to do. And based on those 4 domains, you can see he's got some work to do, right? Well, next below that then, it says placement by domain. So again, it shows us what the score was for numbers and operations. And then if you go on to the next page, it shows a description of where he's at. And then it says, this is what this student can do. As teachers, we like to work from student strengths. We like to help make them feel successful before we start, like, this is what you need to work on, right? So we want to go over these things with our kids. Look what you can do. This is great that you can already subtract multi-digit numbers. You can already multiply 2-digit numbers by 1-digit numbers. And then as you go down, it says next steps and resources for instruction. And it says this student really needs to work on dividing up to 4-digit whole numbers by 1-digit whole numbers. And look at there below, tools for instruction. There are 3 choices for that teacher if that teacher would like to do an individualized lesson with that student. And she can click on that PDF, print it out, see if it fits her needs, adjust it if needed for that particular student's accommodations, and it's right there for them to go. If we go on to the reading assessment, you'll see reading has more domains than the math because English Language Arts has more parts for their standards. Phonological awareness, at this grade level in particular, by the way. It gets more in math as they get older. But at this level, phonological awareness, phonics, high-frequency words, vocabulary, comprehension of literature, and comprehension of informational text. So again, it gives us the breakdown. On that side, we can see this student is at the 42nd percentile as a national norm. That's huge. That's huge. So he's in that kind of average range. Most kids in his grade level are going to fall between that 35th and 65th percentile. 50 again being dead average. So he's kind of where he should be, but maybe just a little below. Then you've got down below, it starts with phonological awareness. It says test it out, which means he got every single question correct for phonological awareness. So we know we don't need to work on that with him. If you go on to the next page, it shows phonics. He's at grade 3 for that one, and he's in grade 4. It shows what he can do, and again, shows next steps on that third page. His next thing to work on is practice using syllabication patterns to determine sound symbols. It even gives a phonics book right there that you can click on, go and find resources in, and a tool for instruction that's a PDF as well. And then there's another goal for him under phonics, provide repeated practice decoding multisyllabic words. Now you'll see at the bottom, this is page 3 of 15. I didn't give you all 15 pages, but it does that for every domain, for both subjects. So look at all that information that we're getting for our teachers to use. Now, if you check up here on the PowerPoint presentation again, this is an actual student of ours. And this is called a growth report that I printed for him. I took his name off of it. We don't know who his teacher is, any of that stuff. But just from fall of 2020 to when he took it again in December, you can see his growth. He grew 59 points and went from late first grade to middle second grade, or actually above second grade, right there. Grew 59 points. His goal was only to get to 533, and he got to 555. So he was actually way higher than what he should do, and they gave us a little report that says he made 159% of the progress he was supposed to make. So anything above 100 is great, right? He was only supposed to get to 100 by the end of the school year, but because he was motivated and really worked hard on this, and by the way, this is a VLP student. This is a virtual student. So this works for our virtual kids as well as for our in-person kids. We've got some great, awesome preliminary data. All right, the next handout I gave you, this is something else the teacher gets. Remember when I said it grouped students for you? This particular thing says, here's a whole class lesson on fraction operations. And you can see the essential skill at the very bottom. It says multiply a fraction by a whole number. And then you see that it's broken these kids into 4 groups. Group A doesn't have any students in it because they didn't need that. There's green checks there. Group B has 2 students. And he really needs the understanding division. I'm sorry, that's one he got. He needs additional support. Those 2 students need additional support on the first 2 prerequisites. Group C has 4 students in it, and they need in-depth review on 3 of those things and additional support on 1. And then our 4th group, there are kids who have the most gap skills, and they're going to need a lot more intensive instruction. So what this tells this particular teacher is that she can group students. There is a PDF right there above the group that she can print out to use as her small group lesson if she'd like. And then I didn't include this here, but if she keeps scrolling on this page on her computer, it tells her the names of those students. So she's already got that ready to go when she's ready to plan for small group instruction for the next week. Now, does she have to use that PDF? No, but it'll give her, hey, I have a better lesson than that about that same thing. I mean, it gives her those choices, right? Saves a lot of planning time, too. The next one says tools for scaffolding comprehension. Sometimes we have that kid who they just read just perfect for us, but the comprehension, they can read a whole thing and we think they got it totally right, and then we ask them a question and they look at us like deer in headlights, right? We've got those kids. This is perfect. It's a tool that's built into iReady. They can go by grade level. This is for 3rd grade. And it gives a teacher handout and a student handout for all the different standards. Like I only printed the first page, but this does it for all of the English language arts standards for comprehension. So these lessons are there right in iReady, ready for teachers to print out and use if they wish. And then the very last handout is iReady Central. Now iReady Central is a really cool tool. All teachers, when they log into iReady on their dashboard, have a link to iReady Central. It's a big warehouse that iReady has given to all of our teachers, where if they have questions about using iReady, if they want to learn how to lead an implementation of I've used it as a leader, and I know the principals have too, to go in, and it has a leadership guide in there on how to lead iReady in your school and lots of ideas on how to motivate your teachers and staff. It talks about how do we get good data? How do we make sure that we get the best data from iReady when we're going to have our students test? What things should we do beforehand? How do I use my data as a teacher? There's lessons, there's videos in there, there's handouts, there's goal tracking sheets, there's all kinds of stuff that teachers can go in and look at if they wish. There's tools for differentiating instruction, things to help engage students and their families with iReady. How do we help families understand the importance of iReady and why we're using it, and why it's important that if you are taking this as a virtual student, mom and dad don't help them, because here's the reason. If you do, their learning path's gonna be way too hard, and then they won't be able to do it on their own. It won't be addressing the right skills. And we did have that happen a few times, and I had conversations with those parents, and they said, all right, we'll take it again. I won't help them this time, I promise. Because parents want their kids to succeed so bad, they don't want them to not to struggle. And I said, tell them, this test is designed for them to only get 50% of the questions right. For every kid, no matter how smart you are. So it's supposed to happen. Tell them not to get frustrated, just do their best. So, but this is a really great tool for our teachers, that if they have questions on other ways they can be using iReady or helping their students, that's right there for them. All right, now is your time to ask me questions.
I have a question. Do we know how consistently, if there's like designated time that teachers are letting students get in and work on those learning paths?
We do. Each principal from their dashboard can pull up any class in their school. They can see, and teachers can see this too, to monitor which kids are using it and when, how much time on task, how many questions they've completed, how many lessons, how many standards they've mastered. All of that is there. They can drill down to this all the way to the individual student. So they can look at their class overall, or they can look at a whole school. I mean, there's all kinds of views for that. So principals and teachers monitor that from their building level.
And then I would also add that iReady meets with our leadership team.
Yes.
So Chuck and Dia and Jenny and I participate, where they're going through and giving us, so we can really keep a good tab on how all of the
Exactly.
schools are doing. If there are some teachers that need additional support, or some principals that need additional support, that lets us know that too.
Absolutely. And Jason from iReady will be meeting with our whole admin team in February to go over a really big, what he calls a data packet, like an executive summary of how we've done so far with iReady. So we'll be getting all of that information from him as well, to set goals for what we need to work on.
And that we've asked that he can somehow give us a packet that then I'll be able to share all that with you too.
Yes.
And then do we send home information with students so that if families want to get on those paths at home, that they know how to do it, especially like those virtual learning kiddos?
Yeah, principals, when they met with the iReady professional development, Yvonne is our PD person, we're all on a first name basis now. She has gone over all of that with principals about what to send home, PowerPoints to go over with the class before they take the test. Our virtual students, we sent home a PowerPoint for them to watch with their parents about why iReady is important. Like I said, a few of them didn't listen, but it was a very small number though, I will say. I think I only talked to 3 parents. But I will say it has been the plethora of, they even have a social media kit for us if we want to start using that, which we haven't had a lot of time to dig into yet, but I think at some point I'll be looking at, what we can use from that. And like I said, building level principals have access to that too and can use it however they would like. But I think it's really exciting to see the schools that have latched onto it as something they're almost making it a challenge for the kids of how much they can complete, and the growth that we're seeing in the initial growth data.
What's the timing on the assessments again? When does this?
We have 3 windows throughout the year, just like we did with NWEA. We have a fall window, which was back in August, September. We had a window that's happening right now, which is December, January. And then the final window is May, which all the students will take it at the same time in May to get that final year-end score.
So we have a chance to coordinate the timing of the teaching
Yep.
with the assessments then.
Absolutely. And every school gets an email from me like a week or two before the window opens, letting them know, here's what teachers need to do. I mean, because we were all learning how do we assign a test? How do we, those kinds of things for everyone. So I've been making little videos along the way about how to create growth reports for your students, for your classroom and things like that. And I shoot those out to principals. And, just as I learn to do something, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was in there. So I'll make a little video of me on a screencast and send it to the principals. They're like, oh my gosh, we didn't even know you could do that. So we're still learning it along the way. I'm sure we'll find lots of other ways to use it.
This is exciting to me because it really, one of the criticisms of the standardized testing has always been just teaching to the test.
Right.
And almost memorization. And this seems to be about learning that will also result in better test scores.
Yes, it's very aligned to standards, not test questions. I mean, but they do use a lot of the same technology tools that the students will see on iLearn, so they become very familiar with them. Things like the drag and drop on the screen, or the different math tools, or an online calculator. They get to use those as part of iReady, so that when they get to that in iLearn, they're not afraid of it or don't know how to use it.
Additional questions?
I don't have a question, but I'm impressed with the coordination from the mask all the way down in your outfit. I would be the one that would notice that, by the way.
I appreciate that.
You coordinate your stalls every Sunday?
Tell the
No.
truth.
So,
Anything
Jenny,
else?
for the benefit of those watching and other board members and folks here, I heard this, and I want to make sure I heard it right, that preliminary data, particularly at the elementary level, we are seeing with the iReady significant growth with our students.
We are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like 100% of the students, because there are still some, we're always going to have those students that aren't motivated to work on it at home and aren't, they're not doing as much as they should. But for the classrooms that are consistently using it between 30 and 49 minutes a week per subject area, fabulous growth.
Okay. And so that is a significant story for MCS. And now we'll obviously.
I wish I could share our data with you right now, but I really can't.
Yeah, I understand it's embargoed for a bit here, but so I think you said that by early spring, we would have a packet, is that right?
Yes. We'll be able to see an executive summary of the growth, yeah.
And will that also obviously be shared with all faculty so that?
That'll be up to Dr. K how she wants to do that, but yeah, I would assume.
Okay, I mean, in terms of a discussion of, seeing the success of your work or where it needs to change is critically important.
Absolutely.
I think.
I
So,
agree. Well, and I've been so excited. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. The virtual teachers, the kindergarten, actually don't start their testing until the 19th. Because kindergarten, we always give them a few weeks to actually get into learning to do school before we try to throw them on a formative assessment. So we waited until September for them to test, just the kindergartners. And then they have to wait at least 12 weeks between each diagnostic, right? So their 12 weeks is up on January 19th is when they can start taking that. I had kindergarten teachers coming down to me the beginning of January 5th going, can we please just go ahead and give it? Because I just really want to know how my students did. And I'm like, no, you need to let the 12 weeks be in there so the scores are higher. And they're like, I know, but I just want to know.
Yeah.
So they're invested.
Absolutely, great work. Any additional questions, concerns, comments? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Excellent.
Okay, on to the next item, extension of sick leave or extended family medical leave act. It's in your packet. Do you want me to cover this?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, Dr. Kwiatkowski and I talked before or during Christmas break, I can't remember precisely when, about, so the Families First Coronavirus Response Act expired December 31st, 2020. I suspect we will see the new Congress take up some version of this again, but notwithstanding that, with the expiration December 31st, 2020, we discussed the need to put before the board the notion to proceed in accordance with Families First and continuing to offer employees paid sick leave or expanded family and medical leave for the reasons specific reasons related to COVID-19 under the same terms and conditions as the act, which expired on December 31st, meaning I think there's 10 days initially, and then the ability to use the FMLA after that, provided that the employee had not previously exhausted leave, and obviously, those become a case-by-case basis, and legally the layering of the FMLA on the back end of Family First is also a way to protect those employees who may have exhausted their leave prior to the first of the year. So we then indicated that it would be available from January 1st, 2021 until 30 days after vaccine has been made available, and I should say widely available, but that was my editing error, to school employees. And obviously that changed this week or late last week with regard to the Department of Health's decision on the administration of the vaccine and changing the priorities a little bit. So any questions concerning that? Basically, we thought that Congress's inaction and failure to renew certain portions of the act prior to December 31 was an oversight, and we wanted to make certain that our people who still ended up battling COVID or had a close family member with COVID under the terms and conditions set out by the original act would be treated in the same manner until such time as we were able to get widespread protection for those employees. So it is a matter of voluntary undertaking of a duty which expired on December 31. So that is something that's unique. Any questions, concerns?
You may have said this, Jim, but why 30 days?
I think it was an arbitrary selection, thinking that once vaccines had been made widely available, our hope was to incentivize folks at that point to go get the vaccine, get it done, and we could extend. We could obviously extend it as a board if it. The vaccine rollout has been obviously problematic on a national basis. So 30 days was selected to incentivize it. Obviously, we could take that up if it became clear that we had half our staff able to receive a vaccine and then something occurred regarding supplies, we could revisit it. Any questions, concerns? So with that, would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll show it passes. If you would let our folks know. We are on to Mr. Jerome. You've been incredibly quiet tonight.
We will try to be very efficient tonight. I know we have about 6 things in a row. And the first thing was permission to advertise to request for purchase of network technology via E-rate funds. Dr. Kay and Tony had met with the folks from AdTech, and they helped us with this. And because it's going to be over $50,000, we have to do a legal advertisement. So that is what the motion that I'm asking you to consider tonight is, to permission to advertise for these particular bids for this equipment. We would bring it back to you. We're expecting to, in March, we'll receive bids on March 1st and expect to bring back to a school board meeting on March 9th.
Any questions for Mr. Jerome?
So this is the federal E-rate funding. Is there a limitation on that level of funding?
Is there a limitation?
Yeah, a maximum amount.
Tony? We're not going to spend more than the money they give us. I know that, so.
It was based on a calculation
Yeah.
of number of students and the percentage of free and reduced lunch with a dollar amount that they gave to us, and that ended up letting them know how much we would be able to request.
So through that calculation, they tell you what's it. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
That's real money.
Yes.
Okay, any additional questions? Would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Mr. Lowe's moved to approve. I will second it. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Brad?
Yeah, thank you. The next item on your board agenda, included in your packet, was the cyber insurance, workers' comp insurance, as well as the revision for the property and casualty insurance renewal for 2021. What this basically means is we're bringing back to you the property and casualty insurance that we had just considered at our December meeting. We had the opportunity to reduce that premium by over $94,000. Plus, we knew we were going to be considering tonight the cyber and workers' comp just on that due date. So by putting this motion in front of you tonight, in total, compared to last year, we will be reducing our insurance premiums for those three items over $8,000. So last month, it was going to be a little over increase of $52,000, so we've made a late change on property and casualty. So I'm just asking you to consider this motion tonight to make these three renewals for workers' comp, as well as the property and casualty and cyber insurance.
So, obviously, we always like a savings.
Yes.
So, entertain a motion? Question, David?
Just comment, I went and looked at EMC. We wanted to make sure that we weren't going to some carrier that was, not A-rated. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, EMC was a carrier that I had familiarity with in my prior district. There's only a few carriers in this marketplace, that's for
Right.
sure. And just like IPEP, that's kind of I'm going to stop short of calling it a consortium, but it is a grouping of it's for public entities like us, for the workers' comp. Workers' comp is always driven by our claims, and that's where our mod, if your loss mod is about considered 1, your average, and we were 1.35. So that's why our workers' comp went up significantly over the prior year.
My only point was I think we've done a good job of making sure that we were, getting a savings and not risking putting ourselves at risk. I'll make a motion to accept that.
Okay, Mr. Heaters moved to accept. Dr. O'Neill has seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We'll show it passes. This is an interesting entry on the agenda, useful live for roof projects.
Right. I know this is very mundane.
How about keeping the rain out?
The State Board of Accounts, we took this back to you back in the time that we were having our audit, just to update this after our last audit. And I made note of the fact that for our roof projects that we were just finishing, the roof guarantees are 25 years, and I just did not have that listed out specifically. In our depreciation expense policy, everything was listed at 50 years. It did not make sense to have 50 years on a roof if they're only going to last 25. So that's what I'm putting forward in front of you tonight, just to be it resolved that you'll approve this change for a roof project to be 25 years only.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Mr. Lowe's moved to approve. Second. Mr. Irvin has moved to second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Jerome, resolution to transfer amounts from education fund to our operations fund.
Thank you. This is our annual resolution that we've had to do each of the last 3 years because of the splitting of the funds on education fund and operation fund. They encourage us to stay below 15%. This resolution is asking the board permission to do exactly that, where I am saying we will not exceed our transfer from total education fund revenue to the transfer to operation fund. We will not transfer more than 15% of that total revenue, and that is the motion I'm asking you to consider tonight. In case you're wondering, in 2020, our transfer was a little over $6.2 million. In 2021, it's probably around $6.1 million. You just take your total revenue for the end of the year and you multiply by 15%, and you just don't want to spend over that. Now, if you're saying, why don't you want to not spend over that? Don't transfer over that. If you do, you're put on an excessive transfer list by the DOE, then you have to explain yourself of why you transferred more money than 15%. So I'd prefer to just transfer 14.99% and not have to do the extra extra work on that, plus they're wanting you to be efficient with their money.
And this is another way with teacher compensation being,
Right.
such an important topic, that it's really trying to make sure that school districts are keeping money in the education fund, so we're able to give raises every year.
Okay. Any questions regarding this? If not, would entertain a motion to approve. Mrs. Bales approved, Mrs. Barnes Griffin second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Jerome?
Thank you.
I'm glad we're able to avoid double secret probation.
Right.
We're on to the financial report.
The financial report is kind of a good setup, I guess, for the Board of Finance report that we'll do right after that.
Right.
The financial report represents your 12 months of actual results at the end of 2020. We're certainly very pleased to report that information to you. There are certainly some actual numbers I want to point out. We ended up our total cash balance for all our funds in your total checkbook of $27.9 million. We did have that includes, the rainy day fund of over $9 million. That includes your education fund balance of $9.3 million. The education fund cash flow, which used to be called the general fund, was $2.7 million of surplus, so that's to the good. We began the year with $6.6 million in that education fund. We managed to start paying back our $12 million state loan per their amortization schedule. That's paid back at $50,000 a month. So by almost every level or every metric, we have done well and done better financially than what we did the year before and the year before that. The one item I noted there on that page 2 was our property taxes. We received a little over $10.8 million of local property taxes, which was only 52% of the local levy. And that's because the tax cap, the circuit breaker, if you will, continues to go up. It went up over $1 million over the year before. So we still expect that to occur in 2021, where just because your levy that we've been granted by the local government finance is almost $20 million, we still expect to probably only receive between $10.8 and $11.2 million in property taxes this next year. And that primarily affects your operation fund. And I know that's not new information for you, but that's just what we have here in Muncie Community Schools. I just wanted to show you on that page 4, we did not spend over our approved budget. Some of those other charts and graphs that we have there, I just always like to show you where our cash balance is compared to where it used to be over the last about 2 years or so. We paid all our long-term debts that were due. We didn't have a negative cash balance. So I'm very proud to report that to you and to make that page number 9, your actual cash balance for all your funds. That graph, it shows you, as we all know, the negative funds that were in 2016, and now we're up over 27 million in all funds balance in your checkbook. So that's a good thing. That's a good trend. That's what you want to have. That's what you want to report back to Ball State. That's what you want to report back to the legislature, that we're continuing to do some positive things there. That's really a plus. And the state basic grant revenue, that's on page number 12 of that graph. It shows it going down, and that's because your enrollment is slightly going down each year. That's why that has reflected that going downwards. Graph, page number 13, it just shows the rainy day fund balance is grown over 9.4 million. So just consider, we now owe our state loan, we owe 11.7 million, but we've already been able to set aside 9.4 million in rainy day. So I'm sure initially they probably thought when they gave us that money it would all be consumed right away, and we have not had to consume that money. So this has been very, very helpful to set that money aside. Page number 14, that's the Ball State particular Dr. Mern's graph that he always likes to see how we're doing on operational. We basically have had 4 years in a row where revenues have been higher than expenditures, and that's a good measure there. In the general fund, now it's called education fund. So 4 years in a row, revenue higher than expenditures. That's your main fund that we pay 75% of all the teachers. That bears the brunt when we give raises. it's mostly coming out of the education fund. So this is allowing us to still operate and do well for teachers and our employees. Graph number 15 just shows the state loan outstanding as well as the payback schedule, and it just shows you how that trends downward. Very last thing, page 16, I just wanted to report our budget was approved for 2021 at a little over $50.1 million in total. If you were really sharp there and paid attention, you saw that we only spent $49 million on those three funds. Clear back on my appropriation report on page 4. So just to give you a point of reference, that particular budget they approved for us is what we wanted. It's what I advertised for you and brought to you. And that included also, if you remember, we killed about $1.4 million of appropriations in the operation fund back at the time we approved our budget. The $12.7 million in operation fund, that is about $800,000 less than what we spent in 2020 in operation fund. So we know we have some of those discretionary projects that perhaps we did in 2020. Maybe we're not able to do as many in 2021, but yet we still think we can live with this budget and live with these funds that we were given. And so that's really the last thing I have on my financial report to you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Jerome? Mr. Heater, anything, any comments, any questions?
The only comment I would make is I was going to make it here in this next section, but it's probably best now. You know, the constituents of the legislature in Ball State is important to be able to communicate this. But I think you and the administration need to be commended particularly because the constituents that this is most important to, the fact that there is some level, and it's not perfect, but some level of financial stability is critically important to our teachers and our staff and our parents, because I think that indicates that we have the ability to do the things we need to do to help those teachers do the things they need to do, which should in turn, help the educational results for parents. So I think this is awesome. I mean, I think the work that's been done, again, it's not perfect, and there's going to be some setbacks here at some point. We need to recognize that. But you've done a great job, and the rest of the administration have too. So I would certainly recommend approval of the financial report.
Okay, we've got to count that as a motion. Second? Ms. Barnes Griffin, second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now we move on to that unique creature of state statute. Mr. Jerome, guide us through.
Right, I'll guide you through that, and basically it's almost the same thing in summary as I just presented,
Right.
but we have to, we'll humor the state and follow the process. So what you need to do is appoint or have someone on the board appoint someone who's the president of Board of Finance and a secretary to conduct this particular part of the meeting.
Thankfully, I spoke to Mr. Heater at the outset, and we will appoint him president. Did we have who was our secretary in the prior instance? Does anybody chomping? Latasha? Yeah, let's make Mrs. Barnes Griffin, if you're willing to serve as the secretary of the Board of Finance. Do we need to close the board meeting then?
That's correct.
Yep, so we'll
Then we can go
entertain
back to it.
a motion to adjourn the school board meeting of the Muncie Community School System for purposes of opening the Board of Finance meeting. All those in favor of adjournment signify by aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. We have closed that board meeting. We will now move to open
Okay.
the Board of Finance meeting. I will make that motion. Mr. Irvin, do you want to second it? So that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, Mr. Jerome, I believe we are open.
Right, thank you so much. I'll just give you some of the highlights, and then we'll move on to the state fiscal health indicators. As a point of reference, we did receive interest earned this past year of a little over $79,000 for all our funds. As you can see, it was significantly less than the year before. Primarily, that's just because interest rates aren't very much. I mean, even though our cash balances were higher. As I just mentioned before in our financial report, our cash balance, our total checkbook balance was over $5 million higher than it was the year before, so that is moving in the right direction. Also, I split out for you the education fund balance moving in the right direction, a little over $9.3 million. We did pay all our long-term debt in the month of December, as we did in the whole year of 2020. Just the payments alone in December of 2020 was a little over $2.4 million. And we have been paying, as I mentioned, $50,000 a month towards our state loan. That outstanding balance is now $11.7 million. And that currently, right now, we pay that out of the education fund. We had outstanding checks. We have 17 outstanding checks. I'll bring that back to you next month for approval to revert those back to its normal fund. And then the last thing I want to present to you is the state fiscal health indicators. I'm always disappointed. This is the second year for the fiscal health indicators. It's almost stale data on a couple of those graphs. You'll see that when you move through those pages. It does show your actual ADM membership count of enrollment, but for the finance piece, as I was proud to tell you, we had over $27 million. The data is 2019, because they don't have our 2020 data yet, but if you would have had the 2020 data in this particular form of graphs that the state produces for us, you would see even higher balances in a surplus position. So at least you can see the trend as it goes back, those number of years on the fund balances, the deficit and surplus, as well as the fund balance as a percent of spending, and as well as the revenue type. And the very last graph they show, we don't have an operating referendum, that's why it's zero. So that is showing a good trend, as I mentioned before, for the fiscal health indicators that the state of Indiana thinks is important to monitor and look at the trend. And that really concludes my report for the Board of Finance.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Heater?
Any questions? If not, we'd entertain a motion to close the Board of Finance.
Don't we have to approve it?
Yeah, we probably do. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
That's
I'm
why,
sorry.
that's why you're president.
No, no, no. I don't
Entertain a
want
motion for accepting the report.
I don't want you to usurp your position.
Mr. Lowe was a motion, I believe.
Yes. Second.
Mr. Urban, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. You started the meeting without me. That was good. I'm just letting you roll. I entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Well, hammer down.
All those in favor?
All those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Great job, Dave.
Woo, really fantastic. I
Didn't have a chance.